Let's talk about Terra Luna Classic and what exactly is happening with it. The Quan's lawsuit or the Quan's extradition was delayed. Terra Luna Classic is in a bit of a disaster. So be sure to smash that like button if you guys haven't already, because we do have a lot in plan in the next few days. So the big importance is, where's Terra Luna Classic going? What is it gonna do? Now that's the big question I have for myself. Also, in my honest opinion, I definitely think Terra Luna Classic, ton of potential if done right. If done wrong, it could lead to a disaster, because a lot of, proposals we have got never passed, even the good ones. Like, even the ones that were really worthy, they didn't really get through. And that frustrated a lot of people to the point where they have sold their tokens. For example, the 1.5% burn didn't pass, just as people wanted. But these proposals, they come and go, and some of them, they get accepted. And when they get accepted, imagine the huge potential.
Terra Luna Classic's price is maintaining that level of support, even though it's down today.
So yeah, it's still getting bought up by some players. Obviously not as much as before. Definitely a step towards right direction, if you ask me. We've been waiting for that, kind of. So while not the best, it's definitely not the worst in that sense. Keeps me hyped, keeps me updated, keeps me well tucked late at night. And that's the real awesome factor about it.
It's maintaining that level of support around 12,000 points per coin, which is excellent.
It's good enough. Could be done better. Like a lot of the burns, a lot of the dat we saw when Terra Luna Classic crashed, we were seeing really much more for Terra Luna Classic. The issue is it didn't have a leader. It had a community and it had no leader. It had about probably 5,000 leaders. And that was the big problem for Terra Luna Classic's crash, like why a lot of people ended up leaving Terra Luna Classic. Because if you have... Okay, so the Quan, he made the huge crash, right? And a lot of people hate him. But he was a great leader. That's why Terra Luna, basically the original Terra Luna before it crashed, grew so much. He was terrible because he didn't see that it would crash, but he was great at actually predicting that it will succeed in that way. Like, so that is where the Quan really gets the points from me. Not that it caused millions of investors hardships, but that he really survived in that way, like being a leader, knowing Terra Luna's vision. And Terra Luna Classic's vision is not really here. We're not really sure what to do with it, because there's so many competitors like blockchains that do things better than Terra Luna Classic right now. So a lot of people are frustrated.
Click on that. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Join us, become a bro. We are here every single day, and we are growing our portfolios. Burn tax. It's not going to be over. It was submitted on January 9th, and it's not going to be over until January 18th. But it currently has 87.70.
So this was the second burn tax that I remember of, because the first burn tax, the 1.5%, did not go through.
5% no votes and 12 no with veto. So everybody's voting no. There's 0.22% yes votes. And this proposal is to implement a burn tax for the next 90 days that would see Terra Luna Classic burns at 3% and USTC burns at 2%. Following that,
I kind of understand people don't want to burn 3%, but Matthew Perry, who's been very popular in the Terra Luna Classic space, has been actually talking a lot about Terra Luna Classic burns. Why is that? Everybody wants a Terra Luna Classic burn, but nobody wants to burn their own tokens. Everybody wants to burn the whales tokens, but the whales don't want to burn the tokens, which control a very large majority of the proposal as well. So it kind of makes sense that everybody's voting no, because the big whales, the big validators are basically saying no. Imagine how much they would lose with those 3%. They would probably, afterwards, they would lose, a ton of their profit. So it doesn't make sense for them to vote yes, but we do need to find some solution for these burns. Maybe they might not help the price, but I'm certain that it would raise the morale of Terra Luna Classic right now, and that's what would help in the long run.
90 days after that, we would see Terra Luna Classic burns at 1.5% and USTC burns at 1%. In that time, the community can decide after the 180 days what is the best tax for Terra Luna Classic's ecosystem. I mean, look, guys, if you go look at the data, right? And I know that people were very excited about Terra Luna Classic after the downfall, but there's no benefit to the lower tax. There was literally no tangible benefit to the lower tax that we had on there. So
yeah, there was a small burn tax, but people were saying because the tax was so low, it did not matter. I actually feel it didn't burn enough tokens, but it did start like an uptrend. It did start like a morale boost. So in terms of price, it's really not going to change anything. That's the problem. It's really not going to do anything in that sense over the long run. But I think in over a certain time period, it could really be a game changer in that factor. Could be really, you know, pushing that spark that we don't have right now. We really need some sort of spark, some sort of a update, and we're just not seeing it.
I don't know. Everybody's voting no on that one. I want to know what you guys think about it down in the comments. I think that these taxes would be fine. Now,
I definitely think so. I think that would actually be helpful in that way, like we haven't seen them before.
Next one is the validator list, restoring it back to 130 validators. I'm not going to read through the entirety. It's pretty self-explanatory, 130 validators. 80% yes votes, 14% no votes, 4% no with veto, and 1.04% voting to abstain. But only 121 billion Terra Luna Classic has been voted for so far, so it has not yet met quorum, and therefore it is not passing. Let's spend a couple minutes on this one. So I'm not going to read through this one in its entirety. It is a rather long one, but let's just go over and see what this says here. It says, technical, to do this, we look to open up the Terra platform to EVM, also known as...
So EVM would basically allow a huge influx of bots. That is definitely bad news because that's what people are leaving EVM. Right now, the communities are 50-50 on these EVMs. Like 50% is saying, sure, let's go for it. And then the other 50% is saying, heck no, I'm not going to do an EVM. Like that would kill Terra Luna Classic. And there's like two sides of it. Both of them are really fine. I don't think it's going to destroy crypto in that sense as people expect.
Is the Ethereum virtual machine. EVM has been the gold standard for blockchain development since 2013 and has over 910 separate blockchains under its umbrella. This will give the Terra Luna Classic, the potential to become compliant and with new and emerging technologies like optimistic transactions, where Terra Classic does not need to send direct security information on each transaction, and rollups, which allow significantly more transactions to be processed.
So this is true. This would only help if there was a large burn, in my opinion. That's when we would be seeing like these large transactions coming through. That would be an absolute huge potential, but otherwise, I just don't see EVMs helping that much if they don't contribute to any burns as we expected. So with burns, it would be okay. Without these burns, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how much it's going to help. But again, anything could happen at that point, and I think a lot of people would be seriously excited to see something, at least something for Terra Luna Classic, at least some updates. And EVMs, they're both good and bad. They basically can front run all these trades. They can really be bots and profit, like make tons of profits in Ethereum. So like people can get sniped and they end up losing a lot of money. That's where I think EVMs can be problematic. But there's also good factors of EVMs. Like they can boost volume. They can make more people come back to community. They can make those people interested in making EVMs for huge profits come back to community also. So there are benefits for sure, in my opinion, which we haven't really talked about in a sense. So that is one potential aspect to it. But I will keep you guys updated with more content like that. If you guys want to be kept up to date, be sure to smash that like button. Peace out, everyone.